30% of our labor force identifies as freelance. They are not going to take your full-time job if offered to. Talent Stack is our way of thinking about how you build an accounting firm in the modern era, and it revolves around changing the pyramid. You know, our old organizational chart was a pyramid of the leader, the managers, and the staff. Take some time, grab a cup of coffee, write down a 3-year staffing plan of what your business looks like and what the needs are. You'll start to uncover the people you need.
We're talking talent in the accounting world, and people say you cannot win the race for talent without hiring freelancers. Is that right, Jeff Phillips?
That's right, Rob. You can't win the race for talent without hiring freelancers.
People are scared of hiring freelancers. They want it to be as it's been for years gone by, where people love working for our firm and we don't have a problem recruiting, but times are changing.
Rob, 30% of our labor force identifies as freelance. They are not going to take your full-time job if offered to them.
Is this the gig economy, the knowledge economy in action, Jeff?
Yeah, this is the impact Uber and Lyft are having on knowledge work. It's here in accounting. It's such an awesome opportunity for firms and employers to tap into a whole world of talent that they are ignoring.
Give us that stat again. 30% of workers identify as freelance.
And I'm not talking about the impact of having lots of drivers or DoorDash delivery people. I'm talking about knowledge work, accounting, legal, medical. It is in our knowledge economy, there is millions of people in the labor force who only want to take project work.
Well, let's set some context here, Jeff, for the Accounting Talent Podcast. We serve accounting firms that are grappling with growth. They've got targets. They want to bring in headcount. They want to solve capacity issues. And we've talked in previous episodes about the shortage, why there is a problem in the talent pipeline, the brand of accounting, why that might be weak.
The Talent Stack is our way of thinking about how you build an accounting firm in the modern era. And it revolves around changing the pyramid. You know, our old organizational chart was a pyramid of the leader, the managers, and the staff. And you kind of compress that pyramid up into your full-time leaders and managers who can be remote or they could be in the office. But then you support that central team with 2 new concepts. One is offshore talent and one is freelance talent. And so your new talent stack is a combination of central full-time people who might be in the office or might be remote, supported by project-based freelance interim staff, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and also offshore staff who are doing a lot of the repeatable, predictable tasks that you no longer have to pay in your country to do domestically.
So the problem we're solving here is that there's a staffing shortage. We need a new way of looking at talent where firm leaders have options to staff their firms effectively. We've established before the fractional talent, outsourced talent, offshore, however we want to call it, it's essential to the mix. And you're going further here to say you can't win the talent without hiring freelancers. That's pretty bold. So just tee this up for us, Jeff. Ultimately, what you're saying is if you don't have a fractional talent plan, you can't win the race for talent.
There's just too many people out there who are looking for project-based work that presents such an opportunity for the firms to find those people. Yes, it requires remote work. It requires an allowance for you to do work remotely, but you can find the best player for a short-term position. This has massive economic opportunities for the firm, Rob, because you don't have to pay full-time wages to get work done by an expert who will get the work done for you. So when we talk about the talent shortage and how scary it is, it's a lot less scary when you realize that there is a universe of talent ready to plug into your firm. And not only are they ready, they're experts at working project-based work. They know how to come in, deliver the work, leave, and come back the next time around. And I'll give you some examples as we go along.
So to clarify, you're not necessarily talking about talent in other countries. You're talking about domestic talent that want to work on their terms. They want flexible working. They want remote working. And you've given the example before. You've got 1,000 resumes, haven't you, at AccountingFly that are open and willing to work.
AccountingFly does remote staffing for accounting firms. We get about 1,000 applications a week for remote accounting jobs in the US only. And about 25% of those applicants are saying to us, hey, I want to work remotely and I don't want to work a full-time position, but I'm really good at preparing tax returns, reviewing tax returns, cleaning up books for an accounting practice. And I've done it in Xero, I've done it in QuickBooks, I've done it in NetSuite, and I can do it for a firm remotely at a price point that I think is beneficial for the firm.
I'm going to tap into the news right now, Jeff. We're staying current, but this is evergreen as well. We're hearing stories of IBM. We're hearing stories of Dell, Intuit. They're calling people back into the office, and you've got to get people back in, and Gen X in particular, but they're pushing back, aren't they? You've seen that.
All the generations are pushing back. So we there was a great article in the Washington Post. I think we've talked about it before. And the narrative of the article was that for knowledge work, the best people at every pay level, at every skill level in our market are choosing to work remotely and in a flexible way. So if you're not addressing that, that's why you're having such a hard time hiring. So let's make that move into opening up your firm and tap into that resource, Rob.
So let's define some terms. When we talk about fractional staffing, give us the Jeff Phillips definition of that.
So I'm talking about remote, domestic, temporary labor who are skilled at coming in and doing specific types of work for accounting firms.
It sounds so simple. Why are accounting firms holding back on this?
Talent that is project or freelance based for accounting firms. They are going to be remote. They're going to be domestic. We're not talking about offshoring. That's another topic, and that's another category in the talent stack. But we're talking about people who in your country who have built up a skill set that is uniquely aligned with a problem that you're temporarily trying to solve. I think it's scary because they are used to the very large staffing firms failing to deliver the type of talent we're looking for and on an hourly basis. And I think that turned employers off to this world that is out there, but it has changed. There are major players who are connecting accounting firms with talent. And I think what also has changed is that, just a few years ago, knowledge workers were not embracing this type of work. But as we both know, the world's changed. The labor market has changed, and now a full third of our labor force identifies as project-based talent. So what's changed is the talent, and they're out there.
So if we take examples of firms that have got it wrong, I met one just this week here in London at a big conference that they were insisting and laid it out in their contract that if we hire you, we will give you all the promotional opportunities, and we'll give you accelerated career development, we'll give you the pay, the promotion, everything. But you've got to be in the office full time. If we play out that scenario, surely there's very few people they can go out to play that game.
Well, if you're hiring in a location, yeah, there's a very finite and simple number. How many here in the United States, how many CPAs are in Tulsa, Oklahoma? There's 700 or whatever the number is. If you unlock the opportunity for remote work, if you're hiring a full-time CPA, you're tapping into 600,000 in the United States. But what we know is that roughly a third of them are interested in and have built careers around solving unique problems on a freelance basis. And here's why. Flexibility, they get paid by every hour they're working, and they have the ability to work on their own terms, work on projects that they find interesting. And if they want to take 3 months off for summer because they don't have a full-time job and they want to rent an Airbnb in the mountains and write a book, they can do that. And it sounds so far-fetched, but it is not. It is here and it is there for you.
And when people want work on their terms, from the Dell, the IBM, the Intuit examples that have been in the news, they're willing to forego money. They're willing to forego promotion and career development for a balance of life that suits them and for work that's interesting. They want work on their terms.
I will agree with you, but also flip it. They are progressing their careers because they are small business owners who are selling their services to the highest bidder. So in their perspective, they have a greater career upside than they do at a large corporation like IBM because they're controlling their own destiny and getting paid for their value.
Well, you've outlined the benefits, Jeff, of fractional staffing to those freelance workers. What are the benefits of fractional staffing to an accounting firm?
Number one, you can find the exact expert to solve a problem. And I want to walk through kind of the three categories as I see it of how firms can tap into this. But you find the expert, number one. Number two, you find them quickly, right? This is a very short hiring turnaround, days, not weeks or months or years. And three, you don't have to make the full-time salary and benefits commitment to hire an expert to come in and do temporary work. Number four is it creates capacity. We've talked about the spiral of death inside firms, right? You lose an audit senior, and then the rest of that work goes on the audit staff, and they get overwhelmed. They take the next offer that comes along. So by plugging in little pieces of talent, little resources, that gives the capacity back to the team, which prevents overwork, overwhelm, and keeps the team happy.
So I'm hearing what you're saying, Jeff, and a lot of the leaders listening will be saying, okay, fractional staffing, it all sounds great, but I've got clients to serve that are used to our brand. We want to treat them in a certain way. We want to keep them. I bring in some freelancer that doesn't know our brand, doesn't know what we're all about. That and many other risks are still in play here. So what are the obstacles?
I think you have the risk of churn. You're having different professionals come in and out of your organization.
Yeah,
and
consistency of brand.
Consistency of product delivery. Although I think if you have the right systems, you can overcome that, the right training, the right standard operating procedures. I think secondly, there's the risk of, with all remote work, of flakiness, of people dropping away. I mean, I've heard stories of freelancers who had full-time jobs, and then something changed in their full-time job. They were working for an employer at night, and all of a sudden their job changed and they had to back away. And in this world of quiet quitting, Rob, and we've heard this where people just kind of disappear. And I've heard those stories too. That is a real risk you got to be cognizant of.
How do we mitigate those risks? You got any use cases or how this plays out?
Yeah. So, I mean, it all comes down to proper expectation setting and during the interview process about what it is that you need. The more well-defined your scope is, the more well-defined the hours you think it will take, the time it will take, the more crisp and clear and discreet the job is described and expectations are managed, always eliminates the risk. Having standard operating procedures well thought out and written down is always going to manage that risk. And thirdly is, while you're outsourcing work, you're not abdicating responsibility that the work gets done. So good practice management principles, having a project management software in place so that you can see the completion percentage, pace of work being completed. These aren't hard things to implement, but these are some of the ways you mitigate these risks. And by the way, I mean, these are best practices for running a firm with anyone.
There are risks perhaps with data or technology. If I'm bringing in a freelancer into my firm, I've got to now share data, client information. I've got to give access to firewall stuff. That's a consideration, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a consideration. But I think if the employer has control over usernames and passwords of cloud accounting software, these are easy on and off switches. You're going to want an offboarding checklist. If somebody leaves, we follow these practices to make sure they're not having access to client data, for example. These should be in the agreement up front as well. Non-disclosure rules inside the employment agreement. Most freelancers are business owners with E&O insurance, with their own liability coverage to prevent mistakes. And by the way, like, they're looking to build a business. You're looking them as hires inside your culture, but they're really business owners who are looking to build a brand for themselves and deliver an excellent work product for you so that you refer them to someone else and so that you hire them the next time around.
Yeah. So are the different kinds of freelancers? Is one freelancer exactly the same as another? Or do you hire them under the same circumstances? Give us some demarcations.
Let me talk about that. And it's a little bit of a deep dive, but we're talking, think of this in terms of three buckets. And any problem should be sort of theoretically dropped into one of these three buckets. There's interim.
There's not a one size fits all here, is there?
No, there's not. And this is where the opportunities lie. I mean, there's interim, there's fractional, there's project based. And I want to talk about each one of those and jump in and ask questions. But think of interim as you're hiring a resource. It's turnkey. It's a short-term replacement. There's a start date. There's a rough end date in advance that we know that we're going to start and stop. This is where you're replacing someone or replacing what someone else is doing and can't do currently. And it doesn't make sense to hire somebody full-time because that full-time person is coming back. So for example, a company, a financial team just let their controller go. And you know that the full-time search is going to take 3 to 6 months. In the interim, we need someone to cover the work. So your FP&A manager might be going out on maternity leave. And so somebody needs to come in and close the books for 3 months. I think this is super relevant for accounting firms. So accounting firms who are doing auditing, who are auditing their clients. So they're auditing Joe's tire shop, but Joe has a need and someone goes on maternity leave. The firm doing the audit can't be performing other work. So they introduce them to a freelancer who comes in and provides some interim support through the accounting firm.
I'm just thinking long-term illness or maybe in busy season. Would it work for that too, Jeff?
Well, I buried the lead because that is the number one use of an interim resource is busy season for firms that do tax returns. And I love this because this is what AccountingFly is playing in with clients. You think of any size firm in your country or mine or anywhere else. What do we know about tax season? It's brutal. Tax law is complex. We've got more clients that we can handle. We probably have a lot of 1040s here in the United States. Those are individual tax returns that we can handle. And there's got to be data accumulation. There's got to be checking with clients. There's got to be tax prep and tax review. So this is the ideal place to put in an interim professional who can come in and do tax prep, who can do tax review. There are freelancers who are charging by the return. There are freelancers who are charging by the month, and so this gives so much capacity and solves so many problems for firms. Instead of hiring a full-time tax prep, you can have somebody for 4 months out of the year and not have to pay that out over the course of the year. So it's the ultimate use case for an interim professional.
And one of the firms I work with, I interview their people to talk about their employer brand and why they're a great place to work. And they really have a good reputation for during tax season and busy season. They look after the people well. They work a reasonable amount of hours, but they're not putting in 60, 70, 90-hour weeks. And to do that, you need extra capacity. So don't you need more people on the team, more people recruited, wherever they're freelanced in, wherever you've got to pick them up somehow to fulfill that slack?
You need an army of talent getting this work done. This is when tax firms make all the money, unfortunately, and I'd like to see more tax firms doing a lot more accounting work that's spreading that revenue out. But if you're heavy in tax, hire in October, lock them in, get them into your training, treat them as a part of your team. Send them swag. They're on your team calls. They're on your weekly check-ins. They're on your daily stand-ups, which I recommend during tax season. They are a part of the team. And then they leave. But if you treat them well, if you pay them on time, if you're responsive to them, guess what they will do? They will come back to you the next year. And once you find one and treat them well and they do a good job for you, then they come back in.
That's a really good point. And that's not one and done, is it? You can develop a relationship with them and bring them back for other busy seasons, other work.
Just find them once. And a word about technology. Well, I'm an UltraTax shop. I want to find somebody that knows UltraTax and plugs in through the virtual office. No problem. I mean, if you're an UltraTax shop, you find an UltraTax tax preparer or a tax reviewer. So just imagine the capacity that gives the in-house team, the permanent team and the leaders there to know that they can bring these folks in every busy season to get the work done. And is it clumsy at first? Yes, there are challenges. One of my recommendations is test it out here in the States. We have a big deadline in September and October for corporations. Get that, try it out on a smaller scale during that, work out the kinks operationally, and then bring them in for your busy season in February.
Yes, that's very good. So we got interim. The next one you said was fractional.
So fractional is maybe you need just a fraction of someone's expertise for short term or for long term. So if interim is there's a defined start and stop date, fractional is I need some resource, but I don't need a full-time resource. So I need a bookkeeper every month. I need 15 hours a week, but I don't have the transactional volume for 40 hours a week, and I don't have the time to do it myself as the owner. So I bring in a remote fractional bookkeeper who might be on your team for a long period of time, extended period of time, sort of undefined amount of time, but they are helping serve the book, a small book of clients.
And this is about firms assessing the workload, what's coming up, where the bottlenecks are going to be, what season have we got coming in, where we're going to need capacity, as well as the recruitment strategy generally for full-time hire. So this is great. You're really laying this out. So we've got interim freelancers, we've got fractional freelancers, and then the last one you said was project-based. Tell us about that one.
You're bringing somebody in from the outside to figure it out, right? Very specific experience. You're paying someone because you've chosen to do it right the first time because you can't afford to have to figure something else out. So I'll give you a couple examples. This is where you don't have the expertise in-house to do something, but you need to get it done. AccountingFly had a client years ago that was a CPA firm with an audit practice. That audit practice had a construction client that they signed on, had very specific needs. They used in construction, there's a whole different accounting method that has to be followed. There's specific software. And so the CPA firm got really creative, and we helped them find somebody that could deliver that, deliver a CPA with construction experience that had the software and knew audit, and was able to come in under the flag of the CPA firm and deliver a high quality audit product, lead that, get it done. And then she went on and worked in another project as a project-based expert. So these are situations where like we know that we can't get this done, and I don't really have the time to figure it out, and I'm going to get somebody else. I think a lot about accounting firms, and sometimes accounting firms might have to convert a client from one software to another. But you've got this well-defined machine that's producing accounting products. So we need a cleanup expert who knows how to convert somebody from QuickBooks Desktop to Xero, Rob. This isn't really a full-time job, and we can't afford to get it wrong. So we bring in a project-based expert who can not only clean up those books, but convert the software for the client while not disrupting the team. This works well when there's software implementations. Maybe you're evaluating an acquisition. You're evaluating a new accounting system if you're in a corporate accounting team. So software rollouts. I mean, Rob, last year at my business, I needed to have a dashboard created for our leadership team, and I wanted our financial metrics to roll into that dashboard. I hired a project-based Excel guru on the internet, gave them my specific instructions. They told me how much it was going to cost. I didn't have the time to figure this out. I set it down, gave it to her, and she delivered it, and we use that dashboard on a weekly basis now. Just about anything you can imagine where you assess yourself and say, I don't know that I can figure that out. There's probably someone that has, and they can come in and do that, whether it's for you or for a client.
Yeah. No, that makes great sense. This is terrific, Jeff. We're talking about the war for talent cannot be won without freelancers and people from the outside. So just wrap things up for us. Just redefine for us the problem we're trying to solve and how we do solve it.
It's hard to find people. There are experts domestically who are building their own small businesses, one-person shops, who have a specific expertise that can solve a problem that you need to solve, whether it be I'm overwhelmed during tax season or I need to deliver a piece of work for a specific client. Take some time, grab a cup of coffee, write down a 3-year staffing plan and what your business looks like and what the needs are. You'll start to uncover the people you need, and whether they are remote full-time or whether they are offshore or whether they are freelance, project-based, or interim, they're there for you to jump in your firm and get work done.
Fantastic. Jeff Phillips, you've really hit the nail on the head here with what needs to be done and compete in this modern day world of talent shortage in accounting. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rob.